I'm Buck. This is Sawdust Solutions. Today we're working on a library table that is in bad need of some tender loving care. Stick with me and I'll show you what we're going to do. Well, this is the library, what they call a library table. It belonged to her grandparents, and this thing has, well, you can see where they store stuff on it, and what we've got is the joints have done worked loose. Kind of needs to be refinished. Probably take it apart, tighten the joints up, get it good solid, and then we'll sand her down and put another coat of finish on it. We should be good shape. I got her up here in my assembly table and got her upside down. What I'm going to do, I'm going to try to, just wondering if you think, all right, pocket holes in here. I don't know when they come out with pocket holes. Do y'all? So I don't know. So I had to get the top off. This should get the legs off. These are just about loose. I'll have some nails up here. I might have to figure it out, but yeah. That's got, so they've nailed that in here. I just got some work to do. Let me go on and see if I can get these things here off. We'll take a look at it. Okay, we got release from the top. Basically, what I want to do is, I'll put this aside. What we'll do, we'll got it where we can sand on it. This don't need a lot. It's underneath the table. But I am going to straighten it up a little bit. So right now, I'm working on that. The legs and the joints, where the joints are, they see they're trying to come out. It's not hitting no much, but I do have a few nails right here that at some point I'm gonna have to deal with. Cause I really need to get them out. Yeah, they nailed it on that, but it's mortise and tenon. See where they got it down in there, so I'm gonna have to work with that. But all four of these is loose, so I'm going to have to tear that down. And I'll figure out how we're going to tighten that thing up. But, all right, let me see what I can do with it. Well, I got it tore down, and it just looks worse than it was. But I've been doing some studying on this thing, and what concerned me with the skirts, these pocket holes, that really didn't take into account the wood movement over a seasonal, because the top, it's just where the most, well, even right here, I mean, it's not going to change in its length, it's going to change in its width. as the seasonal moisture gain from the high moisture time to the dry time, it's going to move this way. Of course, no wider than this is, it moves a little but not much. However, it doesn't move this way, just like this one move up and down, but it doesn't move this way. So the frame, the skirts around the frame, is not expanding and contracting lengthwise, or it's just going up and down, which doesn't hurt anything because there's nothing fighting against it. However, if you can imagine the top laying on this thing, it does expand and contract with seasonal movement. It doesn't change this away, but it does this away. Well, this doesn't change that way, so it's fighting against itself. So it's just sitting there and worked the joints in the legs till they finally, that was the weak point. It wasn't enough to come apart because of the mortise and tenon. However, that's what made it loose. The seasonal movement wasn't taken into account. That's where I was surprised to see the pocket holes. So I'm going back with buttons. It's going to allow to have that movement, and it's going to be solid here and allow movement here, back here. So when I put the top back on it, I'm going to fasten it in a way to allow for the movement so it won't happen again. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to have to do a bunch of sanding. And we'll see if we can't get this thing all cleaned up and put it back together. Okay, I'm going to start the long process of sanding. I'll let you see a little bit of it. I'm sure y'all not interested in watching all. It's going to be a lot. Well, I guess you can see this is going to be a while. So I think what I'll do, I'll sand this thing here and get joined back up with y'all after some of this sanding's done. I'll check in periodically. Well, good morning. This is the next day. I sanded for a while yesterday, and I come to a conclusion. I got to working on the stretcher in the bottom. That is oil. Well, that kind of kills, oil and finish don't mix. And by the time I get to where the oil's gone, the board nearly be gone. So I flipped it over. So I'm flipping this thing over so that way this thing will take finish. I just wanted to clarify that this oil is petroleum. This is motor oil. So I turned the thing upside down. So when I turned it upside down, this is the results now. Yeah, so that bottom, so I was able to avoid the motor oil. The top, we decided to kind of leave it rustic looking because our main concern was to get this thing put together correctly where it could have seasonal movement and get us a drawer fixed and get it all tightened up. But anyway, I had to mount this in the middle, this stretcher, the one with the oil. It's upside down. There you go. See, these nails, here was just little finishing nails. They were broke off. This thing moved back and forth till it broke those nails. And of course, this one was intact. But I decided I'd screw that, and then I'll put me a plug in there to cover that up. Then that'll allow these things to move back and forth and the other ends as well. But that's where we are right now. So I'm going to work on, oh yeah, I've got this mortise and tenon. All right, well now I'm going to put me a couple of dowels in each one of these because this thing is an inch long. So I got plenty of room. I'm gonna put me some oak dowels in two in each one, and that will solve that problem. But anyway, let me get started on some of this. I may work on the dowels right now. So I've got me some oak. I got on the table saw, and I made me a 3/8 by 3/8 square. So I'm planning on using a 3/8 dowel to lock these mortise and tenons together. Now once you get the a 3/8 by 3/8 square on the table saw, we're going to come to the router table. I got a chamfering bit. We're going to cut a 45 and get it as close to around as we can. All right, now that I run through the router, see, I almost got it round. Now we're going to finish it off with the jig. So what you do, you put the dowels, you got to make a point on this thing. So you got a point where it's fitting the jig. I got a 3/8 hole, tapered, cut down, and I got a chisel on it. And that right there, that's how I make my dowels. So what I've got, I've made this jig. It's got the right spacing. All right, the reference side will be the inside, be referenced to right here. Them marks right there be on the top of the stretcher. So that's my reference. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece here, sandwich it in the back to eliminate the tear out. So this thing gives me the right spacing, placement of the, so they'll all be the same. In other words, I need something that will give me straight in. This thing don't need to be off any. It needs to be straight in. So this thing's going to help me get lined up, put it in the right place. This is a pretty good little jig right here. So I don't want this stuff moving around on me, because it's going to hold me straight. So I got a brad point 3/8 drill bit, and actually I'm going to use 3/8 dowel, a dowel that I've already made. It's made out of oak. All right, that should have that hose drill. Let's just see what it looks like. That'll work right there. Now, we're going to go cut the dowels to length and put them in. So these are the dowels I've made. I'm going to cut them to 2 inches long. What I'm going to do, I'm going to taper them just a little bit, ensure they'll go in. Okay, so I'm going to glue these things in. I put me a little glue and a brush and get it on the back side. As it goes through, most of it's going to leave. So I want to ensure we get glue all the way through this thing. Yep. So there's one. And what I'll do, I'll take a flush trim saw. I'll get them sent off now. They'll be good shape. Well, now we're ready to work on the drawer. I don't have the top mounted to it. We're going to put buttons on it. I'll show all that too when we get to it. I'm going to put an oak board that'll run right through here, because the way this thing was mounted before was like this. All right, and what happened there, the drawer run down these runners, and it had a stop right here. Now, we'll leave that right there. Now, what happens, the board movement they didn't take into account for is moving this way. Well, there's a problem. In other words, this right here, during the seasons, dry time, wet time, this thing would stop in different places. The way this thing should have been done, we're going to take these skirts and we're just going to add a couple of pieces right here of oak that runs around through here. It's going to be mounted to the skirts, have nothing to do with this right here. Then buttons will come in, attach it to it, allow for the movement. But the drawer will be put, and it'll be mounted to the frame here. The drawer will slide, if you can imagine, these boards are going to be sandwiched this thing where they gotta go this way. That's what we're going to work on now, getting these pieces here. But before we do all of that, I'm going to need to work on a drawer. I can go ahead and get, because this is not going to change. We can use it. This is the drawer sides that I'm making new, because if you remember the old ones, it was wore out. I'm going to make the drawer a little longer. But this is where the bottom of the drawer will be slide in, and then this end will be where the original front would come to. Then I've cut this for the back, and the drawer bottom will slide right in that groove. Have one on each side, of course, and then it will attach to here. That way, if you have problems in the future, you just unscrew and take it out and put a new one in it, go on about your business. But this right here will be the pins, and this will be the tails. The way I normally do it, I take dividers and I'll mess with it till I get it where it looks like I want it. So, that gives you okay, so what I need to do is set a depth gauge to the thickness of the pin board. So that's the thickness of the pins. So that will be marked right here. It'll go right here. We're actually going to have a half a pin on this side, so it'll stop above. That way you can slide the bottom out. What I've got, so I went ahead and got the drawer, got my dovetails cut. Problem is, with woodworking, with woodworking, it's hard to do a take two. The film got screwed up. So I don't know. So I gotta put a bottom in it, in that groove, come and attach to the bottom of this back piece. That way, if something happens to the bottom in the future, you can replace it. I've got the runners, drawer slides. They're mounted. I'm gonna put the buttons here. We're gonna talk about that here in a second. I've got the drawer with the bottom, and I've got it where it'll slide right in there. The drawer stop is right here, so it'll stop in the same place every time, no matter what goes on back there. So I'm gonna explain the buttons to you. I don't know really what they're called. I call them buttons. What it'll amount to the top. And in here, there'll be a mortise that this will slide into. So that will allow wood movement, and there'll be enough where as it expands and contracts, it would slide in and out. Right? The ones in the middle, the mortise will be the exact size, because you don't want it to move in the center. You want it to run evenly on each side. I'm even going to mount some right here. And that in the front, in and out. On the sides here, it'll need to move a long mortise where it have room to run back and forth. So I'm going to show you how I make the buttons right now. I'm calling them buttons. Somebody else might call them something else, but let me get set up here and I'll show you how I make them. Okay, it's important that you have the grain running long ways. If you cut it to where the grain is running sideways, it'll just snap right off. It hardly any pressure over, but you got to make sure the grain is running lengthwise. That's the strength of the wood. I've got 1/4 inch figured for this area right here, and I don't remember what I have here. All right, 5/8 is figured right here. All right, it's 1.5 inches by inch. It's 1.5 inches long, inch tall, inch wide. So this is 5/8 in, that's 1/4 inch. The grain is running this way, so I'm gonna show you how I cut them. Okay, my first cut's gonna be that 1/4 inch cut right there. I make it on the table saw. The first cut is on the table saw. This cut will be right here on the miter saw. I'll be making this cut, and it should open that up right there. It's 1 inch thick, 5/8 deep. I'm set up on the bandsaw to cut the 1.5 inches. My next cut will be cutting it the 1 inch wide. I'm going to do that in a radial arm saw. I have got a handheld router. I put a fence on it, and basically I got stopped right there for the length. It have every little piece to help you out, you're better off. So we're blocked in from that point to his point, which is 1 inch. And what I do it about 3 passes. You know, each one going a little deeper till I get to my 5/8. But this will remember the buttons? Go right in there, down to right there, and then you've got your movement. So that's what we're working on right now. There is there's your mortise for your buttons. Well, I've got the buttons done. I got the mortises cut, and so what we've got is this. We need to drill the holes. I got the screws that I'm going to use, and we'll get this thing mounted. And then these are to hold everything flat until we get the buttons in place and mounted, and then it will be done. So I've got each one of them custom fitted for the hole they're at. So I'm going to take this one, I'm going to take and drill the hole now. Okay, I'm going to drill this out so the screw will go through the button and do all the holding on the lid. So like I say, I've custom fitted the buttons per hole. I just went through there, and this is the dry time, so I'm going in about 3/4 of the travel. Like I say, this will go all the way to the top, and then there you go. That's all there is to it. Well, we're back here where we started, except now I've got a table that is sturdy enough to hold your books or whatever you want to put on it. Got a drawer that you ain't got to worry about it falling all to pieces, and during the seasonal movement, it's going to hang in there with you. Them buttons will allow any movement, and it'll be just like this 5, 10, 15 years from now. So I'm proud to get this one done because I think it turned out nice. We left it rustic looking. I'm going to put one more coat of finish on it. So there is one thing. In woodworking, a lot of times it's hard to take two. In other words, if one take didn't take two. For instance, with the dovetails. The footage I had got a little bit, but with the footage that, you know, I don't have the dovetail footage that I wished I had, and I just lost it. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Once you get done with it, you can't take two. I mean, it's more difficult to do a take 2 or take 3. Sometimes you can. If you got 10 pieces to do, you start filming it, and by the 10th one, you hope you got some good footage. But by the time I realized there was a problem with the footage, they were finished. They were done. So, leave me a comment down below, if you would. If y'all want to see more how I do a dovetail, if you would like to see that. The camera didn't come on, or, you know, I can't help that now. However, if y'all want to see how I do dovetails, I can do a little short video explaining and cutting dovetails, and maybe the camera will hang in there with me. So I'm new at the camera part with the YouTube, telling the journey and all this kind of stuff, and I'm down there by myself. So I'll figure it out. I'll get where those little things won't happen near as often. But I got her. She's good and sturdy. You don't have to worry about laying anything on them. But if y'all hung with me this long, I do appreciate it. I really do. This has wound up being a little longer video, but I have decided to do the videos when I do a project. It's the journey that I look for. The reason why I do the woodworking is one thing to have the final product. And it's another thing, it's the journey to get there. And that's why I hated losing the footage that I've lost. That was part of the journey to get to the end result. I enjoyed cutting the dovetail. I hadn't cut any in a while, and that's the first ones I've cut in probably a year. And I definitely enjoyed it. And when I got up to edit the footage, it made me sick that I didn't have it. But I may do a video, just a little short video, cutting dovetails. I appreciate y'all hanging in there with me, like I say. But until the next one, y'all be safe, and I will see you on the next one.